Hey everyone, and welcome back to Small Batch Devs. My name is Austin.
And I'm Elliot. Today we're going to be covering the Firebase Performance Monitoring feature.
If you enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We would definitely appreciate it. But without any further ado, let's jump into it.
So the Firebase Performance Monitoring feature is a Firebase feature that allows you to get the performance of any of your applications that are running on Firebase's backend. So that includes web, iOS, and Android.
Using Firebase Performance Monitoring, you'll be able to measure the performance of things like app startup time, network requests, and more.
So you'll want to use Firebase Performance Monitoring whenever you start caring more about SEO, which is search engine optimization, and your website's page rank on the Google search index. Performance monitoring in Firebase allows you to track those stats that Google cares most about that then directly relate to SEO and your page rank.
We'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description that will just give some more details on some of these stats that you'll want to pay attention to in your app.
So you might be wondering how performance monitoring tracks all of these stats in your application. Well, it uses a method called tracing, and a trace is just a report that contains data about what goes on between 2 points in time in your application.
The collected trace data is called metrics, and these metrics vary depending on what kind of trace you're actually monitoring.
So these performance monitoring traces run on each instance of your application. So each user will have their own trace running on the application that they're using. Now, whenever these traces run on each instance, it also picks up automatically different identifiable pieces of information about that client, such as what app version they're on, what device they're on, and several other things that just help you identify and provide a little more information on the metrics that you're looking at.
The Performance Monitoring SDK comes with many default traces and metrics, which is typically just measured in time, but you can also implement custom traces and metrics.
It's also worth noting that the default metrics that performance monitoring captures do not include personal information. However, you will need to avoid capturing personal information in any custom metrics that you write on your own. This includes emails, passwords, usernames, etc.
Out of the box, performance monitoring will track many different traces that have to do with the user interacting with your website or your app and how long it takes to actually load different HTML elements in the DOM.
You can also track the first input delay metric, but you'll need to include a minified polyfill in your index HTML, which we will show you in just a minute. So stick around.
Now it's time for the meat and potatoes of the episode. We're going to implement the code for performance monitoring and also demo it here shortly. But first, we want to make sure that you have the Firebase NPM package installed in your application. And we do have a video on this, so we'll leave a little thingy up here or a link down the description to that video, and it'll help you get it set up with Firebase in your application.
That's right, Austin. Now, if you are using the CDN version of Firebase, which means you're using script tags in your HTML, you're going to want to include this line here, which is the Firebase Performance script tag. That's just going to install the Firebase Performance module so that you can use it.
If you're not using some sort of front-end framework and you just want to add this to your body in your HTML, you can use this script tag right here that is on screen to actually set up the Firebase config and turn on performance monitoring.
If you are using some sort of framework like Angular or React, you can include this in one of your components. Just keep in mind that you'll want to initialize Firebase Performance as soon as possible, so as soon or as close to app startup as possible. So for us, we've got our firebase.default.performance initialization in our app.component.ts because we are using Angular.
If you do want to track first input delay on your website, which is just the time between the user initially interacts with your website and then the time the browser responds, as we mentioned, you'll need to add a polyfill to your website. So we have this script tag with the polyfill, which is a bunch of minified JavaScript. So we'll leave a link in the description that you can just copy this polyfill into your own website, and you'll be set up with the first input delay tracking.
So now we're going to walk through how to set up the custom Firebase Performance Monitoring metrics. And if you look on the screen here, you can see that we've got on line 23, it says perf.trace, and then we set a name for what metric we're creating. That's a custom metric. And so we set that to a variable called trace, and then we can use trace to start the time and end the time that we're trying to measure here. So whatever goes in between trace.start and trace.stop will be your functions or whatever code you're trying to time and to save as a metric. This will get saved in the Firebase dashboard as a custom metric for set all meta tags, which is some custom functionality that we have on our blog site. And then, yeah, it'll show up as a graph.
If you do want to include additional metadata for your trace, you can use this function right here, trace.putAttribute, to track that additional attribute data.
And that's it. So it's demo time.
Demo time.
So we went ahead and used the ngserve command for our Angular project so that it's deployed on our local host. Fun fact, you can use the Firebase Performance Monitoring with just running it on your local server. You can track all your metrics and test stuff in your dashboard like we're about to show you. So like I was saying, this is the Firebase Performance Monitoring dashboard. If you don't know how to get to it, just go to this left-hand sidebar under Release and Monitor and click on the Performance tab. And so this is it. This is a blank screen because we haven't set up any metrics yet, but you can go ahead and click on one of these Select Metric buttons here, and you can pick from these different various metric types or trace types. The network traces are just network requests that your local host or your app is making. You can track, if you're sending out to a third-party service or one of your own microservices, you can track how long that's taking. The custom traces is what we set up earlier. All of these zones come from the fact that we're using an Angular application, so Firebase Performance picks up on those. And this set all meta tags is our custom attribute down here that we added in our application. Lastly, you have page load source traces or page load traces. This is just on a per URL basis, I think. So you can go ahead and click on the URL that you want to track it, and the metrics such as first paint, first contentful paint, these are the ones we mentioned earlier. We also have first input delay here because we did include that polyfill in the index file.
Let's go ahead and choose our custom trace that we created in our Angular application here at the bottom, and we'll see some data pop up on our screen here.
Boom.
As you can see, we have some information about our trace that we created in our app, and obviously if you kept tracking this this metric throughout a certain period of time, you'd have more information here, but we just implemented it so it doesn't show much information right here. You can also see at the top here that we have a little bit more information that we can tap into, such as metrics that are on the devices specifically. You can see that our custom one is on the device here. And then there's also network related metrics that we can look at, how long it's taking to send these requests to different APIs and what have you. And that's on this tab right here. And that's pretty much it with the Firebase Performance Monitoring dashboard.
The bits and the bobs.
The bits and the bobs.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for watching today's episode on Firebase Performance Monitoring.
If you like this video and you learned something, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe hit that little notification bell up top to get alerted when we post more hopefully helpful videos. Also check out our podcast. We'll leave some links to the different platforms you can listen to our podcast on in the description. But once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon.
Peace.